Hey everyone, it's Kari, the little Missouri Mama, and today I am going to do my birth story video. There's no clips, nothing like that. We didn't do any pictures in the birthing room, nothing, so if you have a squeamish stomach about that sort of stuff, don't worry, I'm just going to be talking. When we last left off in my pregnancy story, which I'll make sure to link probably below and then in one of the corners somewhere, I had gone into labor the night before, and it was after my cousin's baby shower. She was 2 hours away. We're driving back from the baby shower. My back was killing me. I ended up reclining the entire way home. So I'm not sitting in the passenger seat. I'm actually laying back and I'm trying to sleep. But my back was just killing me. It felt like period cramps if period cramps took steroids. We're heading back to my parents' house and we get off the highway. My mom looks over at me and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I said, I gotta get out. I gotta walk real quick. I think my back is cramping up, and just from sitting so long today and being so far along, I think I just need to get up and walk. So my mom pulls into a fire station. Funny enough, the fire station is right by the hospital. Okay. So I'm looking over at the hospital, like, do I need to go over there? Or I'll be fine. I'll be fine. Whatever. And so I get out. I walk around for a little bit, and my mom's just parked. Apparently, she was calling my dad. I didn't know this. It was dark out. I couldn't see her. Apparently, she was calling my dad and saying, "You might have to come to the hospital." But after a little bit, I got in, and my mom says, "Do you need to go so that they can check you out?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I feel a lot better. I think it's just because I've been sitting so much." So that night, when we get back to their house, my mom says, "I would feel a lot better if you would stay over here." At the time, my husband worked third shift. This was probably about 8 or 9 o'clock, so he was getting ready to go to work, and my mom just says, "I would feel so much better just in case something happened if you would stay over here. That way you won't have to drive yourself to the hospital." I'm like, okay, I can't argue with that. I called my now husband and I said, "I am not coming home. My back hurts really bad, and my mom wants you to be there just because they're going to be home and you're going to be at work." And he goes, "Okay." And he heads off to work. Meanwhile, I'm at my parents'. I can't sleep. My mom finally tells me to open a Word document and start documenting contractions. And I'm just sitting there, I don't feel any contractions, but she's so insistent that I started documenting the whole entire thing. And I don't remember. I just had this really bad pain in my back. Probably about 7 a.m. I finally get to sleep. And then I wake back up around noon because I feel like I have to go to the bathroom. Not a big deal. I get up and I honestly thought I peed myself. I'm not gonna lie. And then I lay back down and I fall back asleep. Around 1 o'clock, I wake back up and I feel the same thing. I feel like I'm peeing myself again, but it's not a lot. It's just a little leak. And I've always had a bad bladder, so I figured maybe it was nothing the first time, but the second time when it happens, I'm like, this isn't normal. It was just, I should probably go get this checked out. And the backache hasn't gone away. I'm still in a lot of pain, and it's, for those of you who have never had back labor, I want you to imagine that you have your period, if you're a woman. Or if you're a guy, I want you to imagine that, honestly, you've been kicked in the testicles. That pain you get when you're kicked and it's in your kidneys? That's what my husband says it feels like. I don't know. When you have your period, but then I want you to imagine that you have a tight belt and someone is just squeezing it, but not on the outside, it's on the inside where your cramps are. So there's an extra added pain and it just hurts. And there I am in pain, and I give up, and I've been trying for about 20 or 30 minutes. I've been trying for about 30 minutes just to, get everything to stop, maybe get a breather, but I could not. And at the time, my mom worked about 8 minutes away from her house. So I called her up and I said, "Mom, you gotta come home. I gotta go to the hospital." And my mom just goes, "Okay." And she hangs up. She apparently ran out the door and she started yelling to people and she's like, "I gotta go, it's go time." So she comes and she picks me up, and apparently on the way home she had called my dad and said, "I just want to let you know we're not going to be at the house when you get there. Kari is thinking she might have the baby. I didn't know, but my dad was on his way home apparently. And so he shows up at the hospital. He actually got there before my mom and I did. And I believe I took a shower beforehand just to try to help my back, but it wasn't helping. On the way to the hospital, probably about 10 minutes away, I called my husband and I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm going to the hospital. My back is really hurting. I want to make sure nothing's wrong. And we just had the whole bleeding scare, and I was taking non-stress tests. I was supposed to have another one at my 37-week appointment the following day. My husband's thinking maybe something's wrong there. So he races out the door and he beats my mom and I to the hospital. We get there. I waddle in and I get all set up and they kind of look at me and they're like, are you here for a non-stress test? I'm like, no, my back just really hurts and I want to make sure nothing's wrong. And so they're like, whatever. She's probably having some sort of Braxton Hicks or like mini contractions. They're not that bad. And the OB comes in and she says, all right, I have to check you. I just remember, I don't want you to check me. I didn't like her. I didn't like her. I don't know why. She goes, well, either I can check you or you can go home because there's no way that we're going to do anything until I can see what's going on. I actually almost considered saying, all right, I'll go. But my husband finally convinced me to let her check me. And so she's down there doing whatever she's doing. And then she pops back up and she goes, I see baby hair. My exact reaction was, well, wait, what? I was 4 centimeters dilated at that point, and she could see my son's hair. I was admitted to the hospital. I was tossed in a birthing room. I hadn't expected any of this. I actually expected to go late because first baby, right? They never come on time. So there I am at 36 weeks. I didn't have anything packed. No sort of bag for me. Nothing for me to like bring him home in. I wasn't expecting it at all. This pretty much sums up my pregnancy. I had no idea. I wasn't expecting this. It really does though. So my mom, thank goodness, thought of stuff for me to take and me to bring. And she had a little backpack for me, so thankfully. But I didn't have a computer with me. I didn't have a book or anything. Like they recommend that you take stuff so that you're not bored. I didn't have anything. Because I wasn't expecting to go into labor at 36 weeks, 6 days. I remember that my dad and my husband were watching hockey at one point. It turned over to Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern, and they were talking about a cow placenta and eating cow placenta. I'm like, well, this is oddly fitting. I had my dad's computer. I was on Facebook and stuff and updating people. Yep, I was that mom on Facebook during labor, giving a little, not so much an update like, hey, guess how far along I am? But it was, yeah, I'm in the hospital. Yeah, we think the baby's coming soon. At probably about 7, I remember looking at my mom and going, I can't do this anymore. I need an epidural. And I didn't want to have an epidural. This was nothing about I wanted to have a natural childbirth. My family doesn't do well with anesthesia. I've kind of always been afraid of it. And at that point, my mom was trying to find a nurse. Now, I had a very awesome nurse at first. And I wish I could remember her name. I don't really remember much of anything. But she was crazy attentive. She made sure that I was doing well, that I was comfortable. And then she went off duty. And I didn't see another nurse. So she walked in probably about 9:30 and I went, I need an epidural. Oh God, no, I need to push. So I was pretty frustrated by that point because it was about 2 hours that I had been wanting an epidural, but my mom couldn't find anyone. She wasn't even able, like, the call light, when I used the call light, it would just get ignored. I don't know if they have, like, a way to turn it off, but I guess they figured because I wasn't showing any signs of distress, they had me hooked up to all these different things, and neither I nor the kid were showing any signs of distress. So I guess they figured they could just ignore it. 2 hours later, nurse walks in and says, "Do you need something?" And I go, "I want an epidural." "Oh God, no, I want to push." And at that point, pretty much all heck broke loose at that point. They hadn't been expecting me to say those words, which is really weird. So my doctor hadn't even been notified that I was in the hospital. They had to call him, and I got this huge guilt trip about calling him because he was going on a trip the next day. So he needed his rest, and wouldn't I just let the OB on duty deliver me? And I'm like, but he's still here. I do remember that. I remember that he was going on a trip. And I thought that was so funny that my kid decided to come the day before his trip. So I'm like, well, if he's still here, why don't you just call him? "Oh, but he's getting ready to go on vacation." Okay. And they were like bound and determined that I should just let the OB on duty deliver. And I'm like, no, call my doctor. So he comes rushing in, and the nurse is yelling at me, "Don't push, don't push, don't push." Now, I don't know if you guys have ever basically attempted to, stop a freight train, but that's kind of what it felt like. I couldn't not push, and didn't matter anyway. I remember the nurse said something about if you push before the doctor gets here, you could tear. I'm like, okay. I'm kind of expecting to anyway, so. And I pushed for about an hour. The kiddo shows up. According to my husband, he looked at our son at first and thought, "Oh my goodness, he's gonna be so small." And then the next second, there he is, and it's like, "Oh my gosh, he's not small." They had thought that he would probably be like actually 5 pounds or so, but he was 7 pounds, 5.5 ounces. He was 22 inches long, so he's always been tall and skinny. He arrived at 10:34 p.m. when I was 36 weeks and 6 days. He was an hour and a half premature. And for that, they had to take him to the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. When I was finally removed from the birthing room, or it was about 3 hours later, so it was about 1:30, I wanted to go see him, but visiting hours for the NICU were closed. So I had to wait until the next morning, and then they rolled him into me. And then after that, I stayed for 3 days. They said that it was because I was a new mom, because he had technically been premature, and I didn't know it at the time, but apparently they were watching for signs of abuse due to the age difference. We stayed for 3 days, and every time he would leave the room, I would have nurses and social workers coming in and going, "Do you feel safe going home? Do you feel like he's going to hurt you? Do you feel like he's going to hurt the baby? Are you only going home with him because you think he's going to keep the baby from seeing you? You do know that you have full custody right now because you're not married," and stuff like that. My husband almost didn't get added to the birth certificate because they had tried so hard to wait until he was out of the room to get me to do all the stuff for it. And they're like, "Okay, well, we'll go file this now." And I said, "Well, wait, what about his dad?" "Oh, well, you can just file it later." I'm like, "But he's going to be back in like 5 minutes. So why don't you wait?" And I, I remember that the woman was very, very like, you don't want him on the birth certificate. It'll be fine. You can put him on it later. And I'm like, no, I want him on there now. I want him on there now. So that is the story of my son's birth. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe. Don't forget, if you want to tell me something, feel free to leave a comment down below, or you can hit me up on Instagram at Little Missouri Mama, or on my Twitter at Little Missouri Mom. And as always, have a good one. Bye.